Thanks so much, everyone, for coming today. Minister Larrabee has some brief remarks, and then our officials will also provide comment, and then we'll be happy to take your questions.
Okay, good afternoon, everyone. I believe you all know Scott Long, Executive Director of Provincial Operations, and Chad Morrison, our fire guy. I'd also like to introduce Brigadier General Wayne Eyre, Commander, Joint Task Force West, Canadian Armed Forces. We'll hear from Brigadier General Eyre, Scott, and Chad in just a moment. But first, I want to give you an update on the situation in Fort McMurray and the supports we are providing to evacuees. We've had a bit of a break this week in terms of cooler weather, which is helping our firefighters, but the fire risk in our province remains high. When temperatures rise, as they are forecast to do next week, we will once again be in a position of extreme fire danger. There continues to be hotspots in close proximity to Fort McMurray and other communities in that area. With a wind change, those hotspots can easily flare up. This happened yesterday with a flare-up on McDonald Island in Fort McMurray and another near Anzac. Firefighters are continuing to work to put out those hotspots, but the bottom line is that these communities are not yet safe for residents to return. But as the immediate threat has been reduced, we are beginning to shift our focus to stabilization and recovery in preparation for reentry when it is safe to do so. Last week, we requested federal assistance in the form of support from the Canadian Armed Forces. That support was readily provided. Armed Forces personnel helped in the evacuation of threatened communities. They provided supplies to isolated First Nations communities and assisted in the transportation of essential firefighting equipment and personnel. They demonstrated great professionalism, calm leadership, outstanding teamwork, and true compassion. Albertans are very grateful for their help. But now that we are moving out of the emergency phase and into the recovery phase, our Provincial Operations Centre, along with the Regional Emergency Operations Centre, determined together that Armed Forces assistance is not required at this time. I would like to personally thank all of the Armed Forces members who have supported Alberta during this very difficult time. They were here when we needed them most. Thank you, Brigadier General, for this unwavering and swift support. Our focus continues to be on meeting the needs of evacuees. Yesterday, we began the distribution of debit cards for Albertans who have been displaced. These are one-time emergency payments of $1,250 for eligible adults and $500 for children under the age of 18. And they are to help evacuees meet their immediate short-term needs, such as their day-to-day essential expenses. Yesterday, over $7 million in financial assistance was provided to more than 6,000 people. As expected, there were significant lineups at the 4 distribution centres in Edmonton, our 2 locations in Calgary and in Lac La Biche. Today, we have added a second location in Edmonton for evacuees to pick up their debit cards. It will be at Nate in the North Lobby. There is free parking, and it will be open today from 2 to 8 p.m. We continue to ask that those who are not in desperate need of funds to wait a few days. It will keep the lineup shorter for those who really need the support right now. And we have enough debit cards for every eligible evacuee. No eligible evacuee will miss out on this support. Now, I wish to address a question that I know is top of everyone's mind, and that is, when can people go home? I know how stressful it is to leave everything behind and to be away from home for a prolonged time. I know how strong the desire is in the aftermath of an event like this to be back home and to start putting your life back together. 5 years ago today, on this Sunday, I was going through the same thing myself. And my heart is with you. You have shown so much courage and resiliency. But, your safety is very important to us, and your community is not yet safe. And until it is, people cannot go home. There are a number of things that need to happen before people can return safely to Fort McMurray. One is that we need to ensure that the danger of wildfire interfacing with the community has passed. As Chad will expand on, it is very clear that this danger has not yet passed. We also need to restore essential services like natural gas, water, and sewer. We need to ensure that there is a clean, working hospital with functioning equipment and staff. This is essential to public health, especially in an isolated community like Fort McMurray, where the next nearest hospital is hours away. I know that this is not the news that Fort McMurray and area residents want to hear, but this is what we need to do to ensure safety. The good news is that there are a lot of people already working in the community to make it safe. There is an ATCO work camp capable of housing around 1,000 people, and many of them are already on the ground. Power and data service has been restored to the downtown area. We have damage assessment teams on site, and they inspected 520 structures yesterday from the outside. They are not entering residences. So we are beginning to develop a clearer picture of exactly what we are doing in terms of damage. We expect that it will take about 5 days to complete the coding of homes, and we will share that information once we have a fuller picture. I'm told insurance assessors are going in today. Once again, they are assessing the outside of homes and not entering those residences. And we are continuing to plan the re-entry process. A schedule is expected within a week and a half, as our Premier committed to do. Scott will expand in a moment on the efforts to get the city stabilized and safe for residents. And with that, I will ask Chad Morrison to provide us an update on the fire.
Thank you, Minister. So the firefighters continue to hold the line in the fire at this time at the current size of over 241,000 hectares. We had cool temperatures this week to give us a chance to continue to anchor in and establish and build dozer guard and to continue to deploy more firefighters onto the line. We continue to mop up hot spots around the community, and we continue to have firefighters there to secure the areas of Fort Mac, Anzac, Gregoire Lakes Estates, and to continue to secure the Fort McMurray First Nation areas. We have had some flare-ups in and around the communities of Fort Mac and Anzac, but we continue to hold them and mop them up as we go over the coming days. We've also done a high-level infrared scan of the community and surrounding areas, which we can make available later. Right now, in that moment in time, it shows that we have a number of hot spots in the vegetative areas around the community, and so it's still not safe for us to have everyone back there yet. So firefighters are working diligently and long hours to make sure that we continue to close those off. We have over 850 firefighters now on scene with over 33 helicopters. 13 air tankers were working yesterday out of our 27, and we have 93 pieces of heavy equipment and dozers continuing to build a fire guard in line. We continue to make great progress on fire guard securing the northern sections and protecting the industrial facilities to the north. As well, we continue to anchor in the south and make sure that the fire moves no further. But I want to make clear that in the coming days ahead, we've had a bit of a break here, but in the coming days ahead, we're going to see more hot, dry weather starting on Saturday. The good news with that is that we're continue to see some southwest winds that'll push the fire away from the community into the remote forested areas. But that being said, we're long from over in this fight. We continue to mop up hotspots around the community as our first priority to make it as safe as possible so that folks can get back home as soon as they can. With that, I'll turn it back to Scott.
Thank you, Chad. Morning, ladies and gentlemen. Scott Long, the Executive Director, Operations, Alberta Emergency Management Agency. A lot going on, so I'm going to refer to my notes to make sure I don't skip anything. So first off, the Provincial Operations Center remains at its highest activation level with emergency management partners from across federal, industry, municipal, and as well as representatives from across all ministries within government. We're working closely and collaboratively with the Rural Municipality of Wood Buffalo's Emergency Operations Center, and we are reinforcing with resources and supporting their requirements. Our joint priorities remain monitoring the fire situation across the province, logistical support to all first responders and secondary responders in the municipality, working on re-entry planning and restoring critical infrastructure, providing support and assistance to the evacuees, and assisting oil and gas industry to restore operations as quickly and as safely as possible. The Regional Emergency Operations Center, located at Station 5 within Fort McMurray, continues to work very hard at planning 24 hours around the clock. 172 structural firefighters, 70 specialists from Canada Task Force 2, 51 engines from across the province are all assisting municipality firefighters. There have been no new starts in the community over the last 48 hours, but there have been some issues with regards to smoldering in basements and that sort of thing. The current assessment, damage assessment, is 2,432 structures lost, 530 damaged, with 25,000 still standing. The re-entry plan, in accordance with the Premier's direction, will be out within 2 weeks. Right now, the focus remains on safety and damage inspections to residents, the hospital, the electrical grid, gas, schools, water treatment plants, as well as the Fort McMurray Airport. All things that are critical to get Albertans back into their community as quickly as possible. The work continues again 24/7. I just want to keep stressing that. There is no stop here. This is happening all the time in safe conditions. Currently have 7 damage assessment teams deployed through the municipality, conducting the initial rapid or residential damage assessments, and I'll get into that in a few minutes. Right now, in terms of health, there are 400 restoration staff that will be on site first thing tomorrow morning, and they will conduct day and night operations to restore the Fort McMurray Hospital. The primary focus is the emergency department, diagnostic imagery and laboratory services, as well as the HVAC system. There was some water and smoke damage, and as you can well imagine, one of the most sterile places that we have to have is the hospital. So there's a lot of work there to get that done, but we've got a lot of people there to get it done as quickly as possible. Clinical, mental health, and support staff were sent to Fort McMurray, including 2 physicians, 2 registered nurses, as well as clerical support. The clinical team is setting up a short-term medical care center, which is located in Keano College, and that's augmenting resources from Canada Task Force 2. A 6-member mental health response team is on the ground supporting first responders. The downtown area has been energized, and there is some stable power, so that is good. Progress continues in other areas of the city and the surrounding area that remains without power. As the minister said, currently ATCO Power has 250 employees on the ground, and their efforts continue. They are being reinforced by 300 ATCO gas individuals that are en route and should be in location today or certainly by tomorrow. Thus the requirement for a large camp to house the ATCO gas and electrical employees. With regards to the gas infrastructure, the team right now has completed approximately 20% of the below-ground inspections and 40% of the property assessments. Municipal Affairs has sent forward safety codes inspection teams. So Municipal Affairs has 5 provincial safety codes officers working in Fort McMurray alongside the Regional Municipal of Wood Buffalo, who are leading the damage assessment. I have to stress that. Their folks are leading it. We are supporting them. In addition, Calgary has a team of 6 safety codes officers in Fort McMurray and 9 safety codes officers from Edmonton that will arrive first thing Friday morning. These officers are doing initial damage assessments on residential and commercial buildings, and they will be working hard to determine if the buildings are safe to occupy. This is one of the first critical steps that must be completed to ensure it is safe for people to return home. In terms of municipal public works, a lot of specialists are on the ground having a look at the water treatment plant. Right now, we know that the water treatment plant has it's non-potable water. They're looking to restore that and as quickly as possible. And right now, they're doing those initial damage assessments to determine how long that's going to take. I'm happy to say because, again, as a pet owner, it's very emotive in terms of pets. As of 9 p.m. last night, 654 animals were received in the Edmonton and checked over by veterinary staff. Yesterday, 225 pets were reunited with their owners, and we expect to reunite about the same today. As pets arrive in Edmonton, the SPCA will be going through the applications made by evacuees through the regional municipalities' websites and calling the owners for that reunification. We are asking that people be patient as SPA staff moves through the applications and calls people as quickly as possible. Transportation, in terms of our support to industry, who again, I have to stress, have been absolutely here for us, all Albertans throughout this entire crisis. Starting at 5 p.m. today, transportation will be working with the Wood Buffalo local authorities and the Alberta Energy Regulator to get critical oversized loads to industry sites north of Fort McMurray. Abandoned vehicles on Highway 63 south of Fort McMurray have all been towed or in the process of being towed to a recovery yard in Wandering River. And the plan eventually is that we will link individuals up with their vehicles, and we'll give them a free tank of gas to get them on their way when it is safe to do so when the evacuation order is lifted. There will be no charge, of course, to Albertans whose vehicles were towed. In terms of local and public works, and this will be the last part for me, just to reiterate, waste management, garbage, all of these things are being looked at right now by a large team of specialists in conjunction with the Regional Emergency Operations Center in Fort McMurray, and as a matter of fact, supporting the Regional Emergency Operations Center in Fort McMurray. We're doing this as safely and as quickly as we can, and as you can imagine, it is still an unsafe environment. There is lots of not natural gas, but there's still a fire threat in certain areas. There's still down power lines, and there's still an awful lot more work that has to be done as quickly as possible to get people home safely. Thank you.
So I'm Brigadier General Wayne Eyre, Commander of Joint Task Force West and 3rd Canadian Division. And firstly, Minister, thank you for your kind words. As Commander of Joint Task Force West, I am very proud of what our personnel have accomplished over the last week and a half. As our first priority, we stand ready to protect our fellow Canadians here at home in their time of need. As the Minister noted, we have achieved everything requested of us by the province at this time. Specifically, assistance to evacuations, including those in isolated areas, and the delivery of essential aid and the transportation of essential firefighting equipment and personnel to those isolated areas. So we are returning to standard high readiness, having accomplished what was asked for from us, but we are fully aware that this fight is not over, and this is just the beginning of what could be a long, hot summer. So we continue to maintain forces on high readiness as our nation's force of last resort to support the provincial authorities to protect Canadians here at home. And we're maintaining our staff, as usual, in this Provincial Operations Center to be able to rapidly respond to any further requests. So finally, I just want to add how impressed we in your nation's uniform have been with the professional response of the province and of the municipality to this crisis. And moreover, the resiliency and compassion of our fellow Albertans. It makes us proud to be your Canadian Armed Forces. Thank you.
All right, our officials can now take your questions.
Minister, I wanted to ask you, when it comes to the debit cards, you've seen the lineups. People are desperate for some cash. Why not do e-transfers? And if you didn't have the resources, why not use the infrastructure that has already been set up by the Red Cross?
Thank you for that question. You know, there are benefits and challenges with both electronic transfers and with debit cards. Debit cards are an option to get cash in somebody's hand with a variety of options and provide some flexibility. We also did know the Red Cross was going to be doing the electronic transfers. So the combination of having that flexible cash in hand as well as the electronic transfers allowed us to mitigate some of the risks and benefits of both those options to get cash in a variety of ways into the hands of Albertans.
Is that ideal to have these people lining up at 3 in the morning? only to be told later in the day that you may have ran out, or, you know, we've seen people with babies and families in these lines desperate. Would an e-transfer not have been more efficient?
Again, the Red Cross actually has been working on the methodology of an electronic transfer for actually a substantial period of time. That would be something new to us. So there were some of the risks associated with trying to get that up and running and successful with the very short turnaround. So that was one of the challenges. But for some people who may not have access to online banking, that's not their preferred methodology of dealing with that, or had some other challenges in terms of bank accounts, we can get that flexible cash into their hands right away. So again, there's benefits to both methods, and we're happy that we were able to deal with both of those in partnership with the Red Cross with that. I mean, in terms of the lineups, we knew there were going to be long lineups. You know, there's a variety of things we did to mitigate that, asking people to wait if they could, if they weren't desperate for money. And some people did do that. And to those people, you know, my great thanks for that. We also, acknowledging the challenge with that, are having the additional center up and running in Edmonton as of 2 o'clock today. So hopefully that will provide some resolution. But, you know, in the end, we serviced over 6,000 people yesterday that got access to that cash and over $7 million. So we can still consider that, you know, a successful experience yesterday.
Any idea how many people you serviced in Edmonton alone?
About 2/3 of that, I believe, were from Edmonton. So.
What was the delay in getting the second center up and running in Edmonton?
Well, there's some logistics in terms of ensuring adequate security at a facility and all the details that come with that. So, you know, it took us just a little bit longer to have those all in place with Nate, but we did recognize the importance of having another center in Edmonton, so we worked really hard to make that happen and are happy that will be happening today.
Was that the plan from the beginning, or was it a reaction to the long lineups at the existing center?
No, we had made it very clear that we needed to have more than one center in Edmonton from the beginning. It just was a little more challenging getting the logistics in place for that one.
Is there plans for another center at all if the lineup still proved quite long for people?
Yeah, you know, we've put it out there that, you know, certainly we would like to see more centers open. Obviously, we're responsive to any challenges that we face, and we'll use that information to guide it. But from the beginning, we wanted to have that availability more broad than it is right now. But again, ensuring adequate security at a facility, you know, is an important key component of that. And that was one of the big challenges with getting those sites up and running.
What do you say to the people who don't know how long to stretch out those debit cards, not knowing yet, and won't know for a week and a half the timeline of when they'll be able to go home? What do you say to those people who are really in limbo and don't know if they should hold on to every single penny they have?
You know, as I said, my heart is completely with them. I've been in that situation where I didn't know, and I really do know how hard it is to not know and be making, you know, those decisions. Certainly, the only thing I can say is we really do have people working around the clock on this to get the answer to them. I think the only thing worse than not having an answer is getting an answer that was we didn't take the right time to give out, and then it turning out to be incorrect. So we're working tremendously hard to get that answer out to you sooner rather than later, and I just cannot say thank you enough for their patience as they wait for that work to be completed.
And how long are you hoping that money will last people? I mean, are you expecting to do another round if the time goes on before people can return?
Right, so we do recognize there are a variety of funding sources people have access to, and everybody's a little different with that. A number of people, thankfully, had access to insurance and have access to those funds. And if for those of you who have insurance and have not connected with your insurance company, we encourage you to do that right away, as many insurance policies do have supports, including for small businesses. Small businesses often have some kind of business continuity insurance embedded in that. We also, you know, have, for those who have desperate financial situations, our Alberta Works program. And lastly, the Red Cross is fully committed to those who are in, you know, more desperate financial situation to provide additional funding as well. So right now we're looking at that combination of funding for Albertans. Again, it's an evolving situation, and we continue to be responsive to the needs of those in Fort McMurray and analyze what their needs are as we go along with that. So.
Following the pamphlet site, like some people have been calling for tours of residents or communities, is that something you're looking at?
Well, certainly part of our reentry plan is talking about temporary access into the city versus a more permanent placement, and including the ability to look at their homes. So when we come out with a reentry plan, it will be clear in terms of any entry into the city, whether that be temporary to see their homes, including also the more permanent response into the community. So those details are coming.
Okay, we're going to go to the phones now, and then we'll return to the floor. Operator, can you please put through our first caller?
Your next question comes from the line of Ryan Tumulty from Metro Edmonton. Your line is now open.
Yep. Hi, Minister. I'm wondering if Mayor Blake was talking yesterday before her council meeting here in Edmonton about when she goes to rebuild the city, maybe looking at rebuilding in a different way and maybe looking at building code changes that falls under your ministry. Is that something that you think needs to be considered in the wake of this tragedy?
Certainly we consider the municipality and their leadership. When it comes to the rebuilding, they are the lead in terms of helping rebuild their community. So the partnership that between us, we will continue to provide ongoing support to the municipality and to their leadership in terms of what they need, and consider where they want to go and provide support as needed. In terms of the details, that is long from being worked out. We're just beginning those conversations around rebuilding, so I look forward to sharing the outcomes of those conversations that will happen in the many months to come.
What about changing the building code, though, because that applies to all municipalities beyond just Fort McMurray and does fall under your ministry?
Certainly I do have the Safety Codes Council, for the province, who's deeply involved with those changes, and I can certainly bring it before them, but that's certainly not something that we're looking at right at this moment.
Operator, can we please have the next caller?
Your next question comes from the line of Rod Nichols from Reuters. Your line is open.
Hi, thanks for taking my question. Chad, can you just maybe pin down a little bit for us where exactly the fire is now related to Fort McMurray or any other lakes or communities?
Sure. Chad Morrison here, Alberta Wildfire. The fire continues to spread to the out towards the east of the community. So right now it's north, and just north around Anzac is the most southern small community that's touched, and it continues to spread out there in the forested areas along the Clearwater drainage. So that continues to move closer out that way. It's about 15 kilometers still away from the border of Saskatchewan, and is still south of the Suncor site there, and we've held it there at this time.
Any oil sands facilities that are in jeopardy at this point?
Obviously too soon to tell based on how long our fire season is, but I think that we've been able to hold the line here, and so nothing at this time. We'll see in the coming weeks ahead as we get some more hot and dry weather what may happen, but no, at this point everything's moving. Either the predicted winds are also away from the community and those facilities for those hot, dry days, so at this point the answer is no immediate threat.
Operator, can we please have the next caller?
Your next question comes from the line of Rick Dolphin from Insight into Government. Your line is now open.
These questions are also for Chad. Did the fire that touched Fort McMurray create sort of a natural fire break around the city now, i.e., is Fort McMurray safer from a return of fire than it was before?
Yeah, thank you. That's a good question. Right now with the fire that it's burnt around the community, much of the vegetation has been consumed, so that actually will protect it from the fire if it ends up turning around later on. So throughout the summer, it should be relatively safe once we have things contained there. But it's still not completely safe within there. A fire is often very patchy mosaic, so we want to make sure that we clean up any of those unburnt green islands that are in and around the community to make it completely safe for residents to return. But yes, for the most part, once the fire is burned through, it won't return there. So, but there's still lots of work ahead to continue to make that safe.
All right. My second question was how does the extent of forest fires this year compare with previous years? Are we higher than previous years at this point?
It's still too early to tell. We're just at the beginning of our fire season, so but I believe that we've had an extremely warm, dry spring this year, and so we're very much ahead of schedule. And we had a number of fires that are above average, and obviously we've had comparable fire seasons in the past in bad fire years. We're hopeful though that we continue to make good progress on the ones we have. We really only have one out of control fire right now, and that's this one. So we have good resourcing and good staffing, but it is still early in the season for us.
Operator, can we please have the next caller?
Your next question comes from the line of Jeremy Smith from Metro News. Your line is now open.
Hi, this question for Chad or Scott. So just with reports of Suncor hiring its own analysts and that the government's predictions may have been potentially flawed, just wondering, was Suncor's expertise complementary or was it in contrast to the government's expertise in your view?
Yeah, Chad Morrison with Alberta Wildfire. Thanks for the question. Actually, we're working collaboratively with all the industry modelers at this time. So we're sharing all of our data with them so that they can run the models. We own the models and we actually supply much of the data and information is needed. So we work very collaboratively there to make sure that we all have the same information, what we're working from. The nice thing as well for us is that we're able to have our fire behavior specialists and experts go out and validate that in the field, on the ground when they're working the fire. So we have teams of folks not only here in Edmonton doing fire modeling, but we also have folks working right on the fire line with the firefighters. So our data and information is the most accurate.
Just to follow up then, so how much did you guys rely on Suncor's data to predict the spread of the wildfire?
We hold the expertise, and so we use our data, and we share our data with them. So we work collaboratively together so that they can use that. So we produce all the weather and fire weather data for that, as well as we hold the maps on the fuel grids and those types of things. So getting into the technical details, of course, but yeah, we work collaboratively there so that we can share the same information, and then they can work through their models as they need for their specific needs.
Okay, we'll take 2 more questions from the floor, and then our officials need to get back to work.
Scott, do you have a timeline for the cleanup of the hospital?
A question we're all wondering right now, the 400 workers, as you can imagine, it's taken a little while to get them up there. They're being housed in a Syncrude facility, and all logistical support is being provided. The initial damage assessment has been done. They're getting in, and they're going to start getting into all of the nooks and crannies with 400 specialists, 24/7. So I think that's a question that we have to give them some time to provide a bit of a clear answer. But we want that. Obviously, that facility needs to be up and running as quickly as possible.
And do you have any sense of what operational impact there will be tomorrow, if any, from the Prime Minister's visit?
There will be absolutely no operational impact from the Prime Minister's visit. The Prime Minister's office is well aware. They're doing their best to deconflict. Actually, as a matter of fact, they are deconflicting anything around the Regional and Emergency Operations Center's work that has to be happening on the ground. They're not using any of the Regional Emergency Operations Center assets or the province's assets. So as far as I'm concerned, I'm very comfortable to say that it will have no impact on operations ongoing on the ground.
No RCMP either?
There are 400 RCMP on the ground doing access control and movement control. So I'm not sure about that detail. I know the military is involved in the Prime Minister's visit. But again, I see no impact on operations on the ground due to the visit.
Okay, this will be the last question.
To clarify with regards to the debit cards, if people were evacuated from Fort McMurray but don't live in Fort McMurray, are they still eligible for the government assistance?
The emergency financial assistance was designed for anyone who was evacuated from Fort McMurray and cannot return to Fort McMurray as a result of that for this extended period. So that is the criteria, as opposed to more what their address is on their driver's license.
So like workers in the camps, for example, would be eligible for the assistance?
Yeah, I mean, I hate to generalize the criteria. I think that everybody has a variety of scenarios. But again, if they were forced to evacuate because of the fire from, with the expectation that they would return right away based on what their situation is, then yes, they're eligible. So I would encourage them to go to one of the centers and go through the criteria, and likely in that scenario they would be eligible.
We have heard some concerns from people who were evacuated but didn't lose any property, who are saying they're getting the same assistance as people who've lost everything, and they're wondering if that's taking advantage of the situation.
Right, absolutely not. I mean, this financial assistance is to make up for the fact that they're evacuated and can't go home, and all of the challenges that come with that. So certainly there will be, assistance provided to those who had more loss than others from a variety of sectors once we look at reentry and rebuilding. But in the meantime, this is about helping people who can't go home.
And how did you set the dollar amount?
That's actually, I believe, the dollar amount that was provided in Slave Lake, if I recall. And, it's again, looking at providing for their essential needs, recognizing some people will need more than that. And for some people, it will be adequate. And again, we'll continue to assess the needs of the Fort McMurray residents and adjust as needed if we see that there's any extensive challenge or change that we need to make.
Okay, thanks very much. Sorry, our officials need to get back to work. Thank you.